you have food available, then that you can save time for the employer instead of having to for the employee instead of having to go out and queue for buying food. You then save a lot of time by having it conveniently available in the office. In particular, of course, if you have it available in the fridge, we can directly pick it up.
Marie-Louise,
James,
welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks to you for the invite.
Yeah, of course, because I came across your company here. We're both located in the kind of like same office, and I think it's a super interesting concept.
Thank you.
And it's sort of on the periphery of like stuff that I talk about as well with technology in the workplace.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's really, really interesting conversation we can have today. So
Likewise,
I think
so too.
So first of all, maybe do you want to give us a little overview of Lunchco?
Absolutely. So Lunchco is a marketplace platform where colleagues can buy and sell home-cooked food amongst each other in the workplace. So this allows for a new way for colleagues to get to know each other. It's smart and fun, and it's an easy and convenient way to actually have a lunch option in the workplace.
Right, and I've used it a couple of times. So here we've got the fridge, and then I guess they come in the morning and...
Exactly. So people that then enjoy cooking, they cook some extra. They package it nicely. They post it on the app. So there's an app for Lunchco that you can find on the App Store or Play Store. And then since you're anyhow going to work, you then bring the food with you and you put it in the fridge when you're in the office. And then if one of your colleagues is hungry, they open up the app, they check what's available, and they then can easily buy through the app and pick it up when it suits them.
Which is what I did.
Exactly.
And it was very tasty. So
cool.
Yeah, I think it's a great option, especially, you've got it right here in the office. If you're, for whatever reason, perhaps busy, you don't have time to go into town, or you wanted to try something else out, some kind of because what I thought was really nice was this kind of like, more wholesome home-cooked food as well, which isn't always easy to find actually when, you're looking for a lunch option, let's say in town or something.
Yes, and that's what we're looking for as well. And home-cooked food is healthier. You avoid all of the additives that you have otherwise if you go outside for buying food. And home-cooked food is often well-made. And everyone has their own signature dish. You're good at cooking something in particular. And what we've seen, for instance, here at WeWork, where we are sitting, is that there's a lot of international people. And people then from other countries than Sweden enjoy to share their culture with their colleagues. So this is one way that you can then get to know your colleagues, and they also really enjoy the appreciation that they have seen from then other people that they haven't known before, who have purchased their food, said that they really enjoyed it, and then also been able to share that on the platform. Because every time whenever you buy something, you can leave a review for the chef and tell him or her how tasty it was, or if you have any specific comments, or if it was too salty or so.
So how does it work from the beginning? Like, is it something that employees then ask their employer to put into, to initiate, or do you actually actively go to employers and say, look, this is something you should be giving your staff?
So it works in both ways. Both that the employee, the employer themselves can see that this is a great option that we want to have in the office and then kick it off for the entire workplace. Then we also see that, so in Sweden, every other person brings food on a regular basis to the office. And the employers themselves can then say that, well, I want to start with this with my team, so that we can set up our own group. Okay. And then we also see that there are different groups that can be made in the office. Maybe some people that, they want to do it among the team themselves, or that if they have a preference for Italian food, or if there are some people that have gluten intolerance or so, that they can start their own groups.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it could just be like a little team bonding thing, right? Like create a little bit of community culture.
Exactly.
Right. So even if you just had 3 or 5, 6 people, you could use the app to kind of like facilitate that. Like maybe one person cooks lunch every day for a week or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a fun way to get to know each other. Usually you talk about work topics at work, and in this case you can then also get to know each other through food. And food is something that everyone has close to heart, so they always have a lot of memories from it.
that I thought of, or what struck me as being interesting, it was like we talk, and in my work, a lot about technology and its impact on the workplace, like how we're trying to use technology to not just improve the experience for employees, but also to try and actually ultimately make them more productive for the company. And I actually think food is something that often gets overlooked, right? People are sort of often focus on the more sort of technical, high-tech stuff, right? And actually food is something which can have a real impact on people. I mean, have you looked at that, and have you guys done research or looked at research around like what the impact of good nutrition is on employees?
Yes. So food affects your cognitive performance, and the key value to an employer is that if you have food in the workplace, it can increase productivity up to 46%. And this is a combination of different factors. But if you have food available, then that you can save time for the employer instead of having to go out and queue for buying food. You then save a lot of time by having it conveniently available in the office. In particular, of course, if you have it available in the fridge, we can directly pick it up. It also, by then having food in the office, that also improves the employee morale. So they feel appreciated by their employer, if they allow to have food in the office. And this also makes them happier. And they then want to stay in the physical office location to eat lunch. And then you have the part of that food connects people. And so by having food in the office, the colleagues can then get to know each other better and in an easier way.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned that before, and I think that's probably something that's kind of overlooked, right, in that whole conversation.
Exactly.
The more like the community element of it.
Yeah, so there's been some research done on that as well, where employees were then asked how does food then impact the ability to connect with their employees, and 90% of them said then that it helped them to get contact and network with their colleagues. And if we look at Google as an example, and I was working there before, so I know a lot about how they work with food, and they are a very good example of it. But they set up the food program that they have for that reason, to connect colleagues. Also because all of their products are built amongst colleagues. So if they have the ability to get to know each other better and talk in a simple way, then that can also allow them to improve both the environment in the office, but also to build better products. So it boosts productivity.
No, something else to bond over, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. But at the moment, I mean, I guess a part of that, as you said, their food program, right? Some of that's going to be about meals, but also about snacks. Is that something that you guys are looking at as well, like how snacking? So
our focus, is on lunch, because that's the main meal that you have outside of your home.
And also the name of
exactly, lunch.co. Great name, isn't it? So lunch is the main meal, and the most important ones outside of your home if you go to work. But then, of course, so food affects your cognitive performance, and anything that you eat is transformed to glucose, which is then the energy that your brain needs to be able to work efficiently and to stay alert. And if you then don't get energy for a certain period of time, you will get a bit drowsy, and if you're trying to work on an empty stomach, for instance, you're not going to be able to make decisions very effectively. So lunch is, of course, very important to make sure that you eat healthy food, and that can keep you then with full energy for the rest of the day. But the snacks are equally important to make sure that that you have a good balance and level of glucose then throughout the entire day. So fruit, for instance, you see that there's a lot of fruit baskets in many offices. And these ones is a great way to just enjoy a simple snack, and also nuts, for instance. And water is something that we don't think about too much, but that is something that is very important to make sure that everyone is hydrated properly, and that allows them as well to stay alert.
Because a lot of time people talk about this like dip after lunch, don't they? So, you know, you go out and then, like, I don't know if it's sort of you're digesting the meal, then like it makes you quite drowsy, and then like,
Exactly.
but you go through this period in the afternoon where it's not so, you're not so productive. But is that to do with just like your glucose level, like it's spiking too much, or what's the?
Yeah, so it depends on the food that you eat. If you eat, for instance, pasta or bread, that gives you a peak straight afterwards because it has a quite high sugar level, and then that drops. So you get a high energy directly afterwards, but then it doesn't last for very long. If you compare it to, for instance, going out for a burger, then that's quite heavy to digest. So then you can get a bit drowsy directly afterwards because it's a lot. It's quite heavy to digest for the body, but it will keep you lasting longer. So you want something in between this that isn't too difficult to digest, but that also then keeps you healthy and alert for the rest of the day. And then you should then have a snack before lunchtime and also a snack in the afternoon.
Right, to try and maintain your glucose level, right?
Yeah. So usually you go to the kitchen where there's the coffee machine and you get your coffee, because when you start getting drowsy, you think that, well, the coffee will wake you up, but it's better to then actually try and maintain a better level of glucose in the body to keep your energy at a good level. And then also in terms of snacks, a lot of people then want to have some, let's say, some chocolate or something that will make them happy in another way. That is, of course, not very healthy in the long run. So you still want to have the variety for the employees to be able to choose whatever they want, but you also want to nudge them into making the right decisions for what is healthy for you in the long term as well. And that is also important for the employer, because otherwise, if they need to pay health insurance, that will cost them more if the employees start not being very healthy.
And does your app kind of help nudge behavior in that direction?
We're not doing that yet, but it's something that we're looking into.
Yeah.
I think the nudging part is important for educational reasons as well. Because in particular, if we have a low energy, our focus is mainly to get whatever food in us, just to make sure that we don't get hangry or so. Instead of thinking of what food would actually be good and healthy for me. So, what we want to do from an educational perspective, you also want to actually say what is the impact on the environment, on eating different types of food. We shouldn't eat too much red meat, for instance. That is something that is not very healthy for ourselves and neither for the environment, because it has a high carbon footprint. So we don't mention this in the app yet, but we will add those educational pieces together so that you can more easily understand both what you want to eat, and of course you should be able to eat whatever. Our platform is food agnostic. We want everyone to be able to cook whatever and add that to the platform. But it's still important from an educational perspective that everyone's aware of what is the impact on themselves, on a health perspective, as well as on the environment.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Great point. One of the things we kind of, it made me think of it when you said something earlier, that obviously we're going through this, weird period, especially in offices, right, because of the pandemic. Office kind of utilization's at a really low point. I mean, how has that affected your business at the moment? I mean, how are you planning around that? Are you seeing, and what trends are you seeing? So
it has definitely affected our business. We currently have our app that is then targeting workplaces, and during this pandemic, workplaces have been mainly closed. So of course we haven't seen the volumes that we were estimating, but we have seen benefits from it in the way that people have been at home and people have been cooking more. So that has become a habit, and also people have been having worse economies and need new ways to actually improve their economies when they get back to the office. Hopefully they have even, that they've kept their job or that they need new ways to actually improve their economies. So our solution both then allows people to bring the food to the office, which is something that we see that people will do more, and it will become more normal to actually buy food from your colleagues. And then from an economic perspective, it can then help to save time and also money, because it costs less to buy than from the app than to buy some food if you go outside of the office. And the one then who has cooked food actually gains some on it and earns money. So you can, in that sense, balance your cost for the food expenses that you have. And from an employer perspective, this solution is also something that is much more flexible to both to volatility of people in the office and to any costs, because usually food solutions are very expensive.
Yeah, and again, like the cost issue, I totally see where you're coming from there, because, you know, it can be going out and getting lunch every day can be expensive, and I think I was you know, pleasantly surprised actually. It was kind of like a good price for lunch. I think what you people were charging in the app. So
exactly,
yeah,
and then whoever cooks, they set the price themselves. So and then the price depends on what is available in the area.
Okay.
So that is something that attracts everyone. And you can cook anything. It doesn't have to be lunch. It can be fika or a smoothie or whatever, if you made some cinnamon buns or so.
Yeah, okay. So there is the option for snacks and stuff as well.
Absolutely.
And how do you deal with the whole packaging issue?
So we've been testing different types of packaging, and we see that the packaging is an important part of the solution. So for people to want to cook, they shouldn't be placing it in their own Tupperware boxes or so, because then if their colleague then buys one of the boxes, they would need to clean it and bring it home back with them, and it's difficult to track them. So what we do is that we provide disposable boxes that are also environmental friendly, that anyone who enjoys cooking can then pick up in the office. So they're available by the kitchen, and you can find them through the app. So you just pick up some and also some labels that you then put on the box, and you write what you cooked, and then you place it in there.
So let's say I was going to cook something that night, like I could take some boxes, take them home, cook, and then package them, bring them in the next day.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And these boxes are also so it's a box and a lid. The box is made of bagasse, which is then fully recyclable. And the lid is 50% recyclable plastic, and we're looking to improve that as well. But this also has a much lower impact on the environment as if you compare to going out, because usually if you go out you also get a paper bag and get some cutlery and so on. And usually all of those things are already available in the office, and those also have a high footprint on carbon footprint on the environment. So we want to reduce all of that.
So if you were giving some advice to, you know, like an office manager, someone who runs an office, or even, you know, an employer who wants to provide a better experience, obviously beyond like using lunch.co, is there other advice you would give to them around food, the delivery of food, you know, how they present it, what they deliver around in the office, and even just sort of like from a cost perspective as well, how can they get the most bang for their buck?
So I think it's important to know your employees and know what they need, any preferences and diets and allergens and so. So I would ask your employees what they need to make sure that you can support them as much as possible. I mean, without setting too high expectations, but I mean just being aware, and also try and actually see what is the impact on food in your office. And then to have, you should have some snacks available, because that will both then improve their productivity and their happiness, and to make sure that they have a good level of energy throughout the day. Water is very important as well, and to make sure that that is conveniently and easily available. And then if you have any, you know, unhealthy snacks, of course, like you should be able to have anything, but try and have the healthier one more easily accessible. That was another test that Google has been doing. So if you go to the coffee machine, before they had the chocolate bars and the chips bags 2 meters away from the coffee machine, then they moved it 5 meters away. And then you saw the drop with about 20% of people eating that.
I guess when it's not in their eye line, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you basically want to have the healthy options more visibly available and conveniently available, that those are the ones that you grab when you're by the coffee machine or when you're by the water location or so. And then other options, of course, they should be available. We shouldn't, ban them, but they shouldn't be as visible. you can put them like in the lower part of the fridge, for instance, so that's not the first thing that you see.
Oh, it's fascinating. It's a good example of nudging behavior there, isn't it? Yeah, like trying to encourage a few more healthy options. Yeah, it's fantastic. I think I was going to just also ask then, like, about your plans as a company. Like, what is your goal for this year? Like, how do you see things progressing?
So we look forward to more workplaces opening up, and that more people are aware of our solution, and that they can get started themselves in their office. So our plan is to grow as much as possible this year and make sure that it works well, and also then to add new features and inspire users to be able to cook better at home, and to see how this also properly impacts the workplaces by having employees then engaging more together and getting to know each other, so that we can properly prove the actual impact of it.
Yeah, again, we'll come back to, you mentioned the accessibility to water, right? Often in an office they talk about that like water cooler moment of serendipity, right, where you just bump into another colleague, have a chat, which leads to something or some new project perhaps. But again, like, I think that's another opportunity, isn't it? Like with sharing food, to create that culture of not just sharing, but like just talking and sharing ideas over a meal. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's something that's like innate in our behavior almost, really, isn't it? We've been doing it for millennia. Yeah,
and you want an easy way that connects the people. So we have, for instance, as well through the app that you can meet with the chef, and in that way to facilitate the meeting opportunity amongst colleagues, both then through food, and then you can add conversation cards and anything that then just starts the conversation.
And like in terms of onboarding, like how can you talk about the process? Like, let's say someone's listening to this, they're interested in taking it on. If they're an employee or an employer, what do they do?
So they can always get in touch, of course. You can email hello@lunch.co or marie-louise@lunch.co, which is my email address. Otherwise, they can also download the app, and there they can directly set up their own group. And then in the group, they can then, you get an access code, which then allows you to invite other people to your own group, so that you can become more. And then we then facilitate as well with providing boxes.
Okay. And like in your business model, how do you guys make money?
So the app is for free, and then we take a transaction fee of 10%.
Okay.
So the price that the employees then see in the app is the price that they pay, and we then take a 10% cut, and then plus some VAT. So 12.5% is what's missing from the chef cooking.
Well, that's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, what was it?
And then, once you start seeing larger volumes, we would then take a fee towards the employer. But that's something once we can then prove the actual value to the employees.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, as I said before, I think it's a great concept, and like the times I've used it, I found the app like simple to use and like easy, and the food was excellent. So yeah. Great to hear. Yeah.
Did you tell the chef?
I know I didn't. I should have, shouldn't I?
Yes.
I missed that on that.
You can do it later today.
Yeah. The other thing, no, just as in sort of like with you as a company as well. I mean, you it's in startup, right? You're new. What are your plans around like growth? What countries are you in? And
so we are currently available in Sweden and recently also in Norway. And then we will launch within shortly as well in the UK. And then our app is it's user-generated content. So because anyone can then set up their own group, it allows for it to be then easily adapted to any type of location. What we then do as a company is to make sure that we have the local aspects in place, that we check with any legal aspects, and that we have the right currency and so on. But otherwise, we look forward to then growing it to a lot of other countries, because we see that Sweden is a great market to start this off, because Sweden has a good level of innovation and also in food tech specifically. But other markets will have a lot of other benefits because they are more adapted to being able to try new solutions as well.
And are you, and in terms of growth, like, are you guys looking for? Are you going through like a funding process? Are you looking for funding? What's the situation there?
So we're currently just closing a smaller investment round, and we'll then have a new one in a year's time.
Okay. Look, I think it's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing the company grow. And I think I'll be definitely using the app a bit more.
Great.
Obviously,
I look forward to having you cooking, James.
Yeah, I should do that, shouldn't I? Although I don't know if you want to taste my food, but
I definitely would.
Okay, good. So lunch.co, they can go there if they're looking for the app, but and we'll put your email address in the video description as well.
Perfect.
Great. Look, thanks for your time today. Really interesting talk, and I think like if there's any kind of takeaway, right, from people who might be listening to this, who are maybe office owners or landlords or anything like that, like, is there any final advice for them?
Well, listen to their employees and try out to add some food to the office and see the actual impact on productivity and employees' happiness.
I mean, this is an easy thing, isn't it? Like,
yes.
Try it, see if it works.
Yes, and food connects people.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, James.
Bye-bye.
Bye.